Number 7. George HUGUELY. In May of 2010, Yeardley Love and her ex-boyfriend, George HUGUELY, were close to graduating from the University of Virginia. Both were star lacrosse athletes and had engaged in an on-again, off-again romance since their freshman years. Their relationship was turbulent at times, mainly due to HUGUELY's heavy drinking and violent outbursts while under the influence. At one point, he'd attempted to strangle Love and then sent her an email claiming he wished he'd killed her. His alcohol abuse gradually got worse when he became a senior and as graduation was approaching. It was also during that year that he and Love, both 22 at the time, had broken up. HUGUELY's teammates were on the verge of preparing an intervention for him but decided to wait until after the upcoming lacrosse tournaments. As HUGUELY's drinking increased, so did his aggressiveness. He reportedly beat up a teammate while he was sleeping for leaving a party with Love. On May the 3rd of 2010, HUGUELY went to his ex-girlfriend's off-campus apartment. It was there that an argument erupted, resulting in the drunk and enraged athlete beating Love repeatedly and inflicting fatal injuries by smashing her head against a wall. Love's roommates found her lying in a pool of her own blood with extensive wounds to her neck, face and jaw. HUGUELY was arrested following the attack and ultimately sentenced to 23 years in prison for second-degree murder. Number 6. Benjamin Green. On the night that she tried breaking up with him on August the 27th of 2021, a young marketing executive was stabbed to death by her boyfriend. The incident took place in Kettering, Northamptonshire, England. 22-year-old Maddie Durden Hollenby had been arguing with boyfriend Benjamin Green, 19 years her senior, about her decision of going on holiday without him. Her mother later told a media outlet that she'd headed to his home with the intention of putting an end to their relationship. Friends then wondered why she hadn't joined a group call and became further concerned when it emerged that Durden Hollenby had missed a work meeting. One of the young woman's friends went to her home and contacted the police when there was no answer. As the authorities checked Green's residence, they found both their bloody bodies lying alongside each other on the floor. Investigators determined that Green had fatally stabbed Durden Hollenby before turning the blade on himself. The couple had been dating for about a year, and the horrific incident shocked all who knew them, as there'd been no reports of domestic abuse or signs to indicate that Green was unstable. Number 5. IFTEKHAR MURTAZA. In May of 2007, one of the most brutal slayings in Orange County history occurred in the Anaheim Hills community. 18-year-old Shaona Danak had broken up with boyfriend IFTEKHAR MURTAZA, then in his early 20s, because her family didn't approve of him. It was reported that cultural and religious differences had also played a role, since MURTAZA was Muslim, while Danak hailed from a Hindu background. The latter's family threatened to stop paying her college tuition if she didn't separate from MURTAZA, which she consequently did. A few months later, in an ill-conceived attempt at getting back together with her, MURTAZA planned to kill Danak's family, whom he perceived as an obstacle. Along with 2 accomplices to whom he'd promised payment, he went to the Danak family's mansion in Anaheim Hills and abducted 3 of them. MURTAZA stabbed his ex-girlfriend's father, 56-year-old Jay Prakash, at least 27 times and struck him in the head with such force that he fractured his skull. He then slit the throat of Danak's sister, Karishma, aged 20. She was still alive as MURTAZA doused both her and Jay Prakash in gasoline and then set them ablaze. Their badly burnt bodies were recovered from near a bike trail in Irvine, where first responders had been called to reports of a bushfire. Danak's mother, Leela, was found unconscious on a neighbor's lawn close to her burning mansion back in Anaheim Hills. She'd been stabbed in the stomach and her throat had been cut open. Leela remarkably survived her injuries and awoke from a coma 3 weeks after the attack to find that her husband and daughter had been killed and that her home had been ravaged by fire. MURTAZA was subsequently arrested at a Phoenix airport while trying to return to his native Bangladesh. In 2011, in a jailhouse ceremony, he married 20-year-old suspected murderer Marissa Starr Bilotti, with whom he'd been corresponding for several months. Their union would eventually be shaken up by the course of justice, as MURTAZA was sentenced to death for murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy in 2013. Number 4. William Riley Gaul. In November of 2016, a football player at Maryville College in Tennessee shot and killed his cheerleader ex-girlfriend, whom he'd reportedly been stalking following their breakup. William Riley Gaul was distraught after Emma Walker had ended their relationship in what he deemed to have been a cruel manner, as she'd reportedly told him you need a life. Walker was subsequently shot through the wall of her dorm room as she slept and suffered fatal injuries. GAUL would tell investigators that he'd last spoken to her around midnight, at which point she'd asked him to stop calling her. He claimed to have spent hours in the dorm's parking lot crying and looking at pictures on his phone before going to bed at around 4:45. Cell phone data would place him near Walker's home at about 3:35 a.m., around the same time when the gunshots were reported. Friends of his testified that in the aftermath of the shooting, he'd asked if they knew how to remove fingerprints from a gun and where he could dispose of it. He claimed to have stolen the weapon from his grandfather and that he feared becoming a suspect in light of his connection to the victim. His friends contacted the police. GAUL was watched by the authorities and intercepted by them as he headed to throw the gun into the Tennessee River. He'd eventually admit to shooting Walker but claimed it only meant to scare her, hoping that she'd turn to him as a rescuer and their relationship could start anew. He was sentenced to life with parole eligibility after 51 years for first-degree murder, stalking, and tampering with evidence. Number 3. Yvonne Wu. In October of 2021, NYPD officer Yvonne Wu was charged with murder and attempted murder after shooting her former girlfriend and the woman's new partner. 31-year-old Wu had dated Jenny Lee, 8 years her junior, for about 2 years before they'd broken up. About a month prior to the incident, Wu, described as jealous and possessive in their relationship, was unable to move past the breakup. According to friends familiar with the situation, in the weeks leading up to the shooting, Lee and her new girlfriend, 24-year-old Jamie Liang, had been involved in an altercation with Wu. Lee didn't report it to the NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau, believing she'd be able to handle the conflict on her own. In October, Wu lay in wait and ambushed the couple as they returned to their Brooklyn apartment. She opened fire, striking both Lee and Liang multiple times. The former survived and recovered in a hospital, but Liang succumbed to her injuries. Wu told the police that she'd wanted to take her own life after the shooting, but both neighbors and arresting officers reported she seemed calm and collected at the scene. Based on the latest updates on the case, she was taken to a hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. Today's topic was requested by Get 'Em Straight, Jess the Dark Angel, and Christian. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Ahmed Shabaz. On November the 14th of 2019, Swedish teenager Wilma Anderson from the town of Uddevalla was reported missing. The local authorities, with support from the Swedish Armed Forces, searched for her in an operation that also involved divers and a mini submarine. Within a week, her ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old Ahmed Shabaz, became the main suspect in her disappearance, and he'd been confirmed as the last person to have seen Anderson alive. On November the 28th, the authorities searched his home and found Anderson's severed head stashed away in a trolley in his bedroom. The head was wrapped in tin foil, and the authorities suspected Shabaz had kept it as a sickening memento. In spite of overwhelming evidence, he maintained his innocence. The authorities believe that Anderson had gone to the home to retrieve some of her belongings after the recent breakup, at which point she was murdered and dismembered by her enraged ex. Following a psychological evaluation, experts would determine that Shabaz didn't suffer from a serious or invalidating mental illness, but that he exhibited what was described as narcissistic personality traits as well as a remarkable lack of empathy. He was sentenced to life in prison but never admitted his guilt, while the rest of Anderson's body was never found. Number 1. Thomas Montgomery. In May of 2005, two people using the handles Marine Sniper and Tall Hot Blonde struck up a relationship in an online chat room. As they began conversing, Tall Hot Blonde revealed she was a softball-playing high school senior from West Virginia named Jessie. Marine Sniper was actually Thomas Montgomery, aged 46, a married father of 2 from Buffalo, New York. But he decided to pose as a young, Iraq-bound Marine named Tommy in his talks with Jessie. The pair exchanged photos, seemingly confirming their identities, with factory worker Montgomery using those from his army boot camp when he was younger. They eventually confessed their love to each other and had virtual relations, but also exchanged love letters and mementos, with Jessie sending Montgomery a pair of red panties. Speaking about the relationship, Montgomery later told a media outlet, "It became more real to me than real life," and compared it to a drug. Notes written to himself revealed that he'd begun to lose touch with reality, as he claimed his old self no longer existed and that he'd become his avatar. Problems arose after Montgomery's wife found out about his cyber life and sent Jesse a letter with a photo of him, revealing who he truly was. Jesse promptly broke off the relationship and began talking to one of Montgomery's work colleagues, a 22-year-old machinist named Brian Barrett, who used the screen name Beefcake. Montgomery watched their love blossom in the same chat room, and his subsequent messages became violent. Montgomery told Jesse that Brian will pay in blood and became enraged upon learning that they were planning to meet in real life. On September the 15th of 2006, maddened by jealousy, Montgomery used a military rifle and executed Barrett in the parking lot of the factory where they both worked. The police learned about the love triangle from co-workers and believed that Montgomery would target Jesse next. Upon arriving at her home address, they were greeted by a middle-aged woman named Mary Schuyler. A shocking revelation followed as she admitted to being tall, hot blonde. She had been talking to both Barrett and Montgomery while using the pictures of her daughter, the real-life Jesse, without her knowledge. Schuyler wasn't charged with anything, but her husband divorced her and Jesse cut ties. Montgomery, concretely linked to the killing of Barrett by DNA from a peach pit found at the scene, was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Thanks for watching. Would you rather pass out whenever you sneezed or have your ex's voice in your head randomly narrating your life? Let us know in the comments section below.